For 7 years, my ex-husband had his story and I was the villain. He told it to our friends, our family, and even our own daughter. And I let him. I stayed silent because I thought I was protecting her. I carried the weight of his narrative, this fiction he'd built where I was cold, difficult, and impossible to love. I let him chip away at me, piece by piece, until the story he told felt more real to people than the 15 years we'd actually shared. I learned to live inside that lie. I made a home there because the only other option exposing him felt like it would burn down the one thing I had left that mattered, my daughter as peace. But when my daughter, my sweet Lily, called me on a Tuesday afternoon to tell me her father was marrying the woman he'd cheated on me with, that secret he'd hidden behind for so long became a debt. And standing there in the quiet of my kitchen, I realized I was finally ready to collect. This wasn't going to be a loud, messy war. I was done with those. This was going to be a final, quiet act of truth. A story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. He'd been writing his version for years. Now it was my turn to write the epilogue. For 7 years, I was the woman who broke Marcus' heart. That was the official story he workshopped and perfected. At barbecues, I wasn't invited to anymore. He'd shake his head with this practiced sadness, telling our old friends how he'd tried everything, but I had just given up. He was a master of the vague but powerful accusation. He never offered specifics, because specifics can be argued with. Instead, he dealt in feelings and tones. He'd say things like, "She just wasn't happy anymore," and just let people fill in the blanks. He twisted my depression, my exhaustion, my quiet pleas for him to be present in our marriage into fatal character flaws. The social fallout was a slow, creeping erosion. First, it was the couples we'd been friends with. The wives would give me a pitying, tight-lipped smile at school drop-off. The husbands would suddenly find something interesting on the other side of the parking lot. They'd chosen a side, and it wasn't at mine. Mark was charming, the life of the party. I was the quiet one, the reader who preferred a real conversation to a loud gathering. In the court of public opinion, the fun one always wins. He was the victim, and I was the monster. I took it because of Lily. Kids have a way of absorbing their parents' conflicts, and I refused to put her in the middle. I would not speak ill of her father. When she'd come home from his weekends talking about his friend, Brenda, who was always there, I'd just nod. When she told me Daddy seemed so much happier now, I'd force a smile and say, "That's good, sweetie." Every single word felt like a small betrayal to myself, but I told myself it was for her. A child deserves to believe in their parents. I thought my silence was a shield, protecting her from the ugly truth that her father built his new life on a bed of lies. He used my silence against me. He knew I wouldn't fight back. He turned my love for our daughter into his greatest weapon. During tense drop-offs, he'd say things like, "You know, Lily is so much more relaxed now that there's no tension. It's a shame we couldn't get there sooner." The unspoken part hung in the air. "You were the tension. You were the problem." I would just clench my jaw, get in my car, and drive away with his words screaming in my ears. I let him build a fortress of lies, and I became the ghost, haunting its halls the cautionary tale of the difficult ex-wife. It is strange how memory works. Before everything fell apart, I would have described our marriage as stable, comfortable. We were Mark and Anna. We'd met in college, and his drive was like a fire that warmed me. I was the steady ground for his soaring ambition. He was in finance, a world of sharp suits and high stakes. I was a librarian, a curator of quiet worlds. On paper, we made sense. We bought a house, planted a garden, had Lily. For more than a decade, the rhythm of our life felt safe, like a promise. The cracks appeared so slowly, I almost convinced myself they weren't there. It started with the cliches, the ones you read about and think that I'll never be me. The late nights at the office started piling up, always with a good excuse. This merger is killing me, he'd sigh. Then came the phone. Suddenly it had a new password and was always face down on the nightstand. One time I picked it up just to move it, and he flinched a sharp, gut-level reaction that told me more than any confession could. He started buying new clothes, more expensive cologne. He was building a new version of himself, one that I wasn't a part of. A profound loneliness started to bloom inside my own home. He was a ghost at our dinner table, physically there, but emotionally 1,000 miles away. The silence between us grew thick and suffocating. I tried to break it. I suggested date nights, a weekend away, counseling. He'd wave it all off. We were fine, Anna. You're overthinking. You were too sensitive. It's a slow poison, that kind of gaslighting. It makes you question your own sanity. I actually started to believe him. Maybe I was the problem. Maybe I was paranoid and needy. The end didn't come in one dramatic moment. It was death by 1,000 cuts. But the final blow landed on a Wednesday. He was in the shower, and his work laptop, usually guarded like a state secret, was open on the bed. A notification popped up. An email from a name I recognized, Brenda, a junior colleague. The subject line was just one word: tonight. My heart just stopped. Don't look, I told myself. It's an invasion of his privacy. But a deeper instinct, a desperate need for the truth, took over. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely control the mouse. I clicked, and there it was. Not just one email, but a chain stretching back for months. This wasn't just an affair, it was a whole parallel life. They talked about their future, about trips they would take. They talked about me. He called me a burden, emotionally draining. He laughed about the sweater I'd bought him for his birthday. He told her I was clueless. Each word was a tiny little confirmation of a fear I had forced myself to ignore. The man I built my life with saw me as an obstacle. The world didn't just crack, it shattered. I just sat there, on the edge of our bed, the sound of the shower a dull roar in the background, feeling nothing but a profound, chilling cold. When Mark walked out of the bathroom, a towel around his waist, humming, the scene was so grotesquely normal I almost laughed. He saw me, saw the look on my face, and his smile faltered. He followed my eyes to the laptop screen, still glowing with their plans and their mockery. The color drained from his face. For one single fleeting second, I saw pure, unadulterated panic. But then it was gone, replaced by a mask of weary indignation. This was supposed to be the part with shouting and tears, the scene from a movie. But I was too hollowed out. How long? My voice was flat. It didn't even sound like me. He didn't answer. He immediately went on the offensive. What are you doing, snooping through my laptop? This is exactly what I'm talking about, Anna. This lack of trust. The sheer audacity of it was breathtaking. He was caught red-handed, and his first move was to make me the bad guy. I just stared, refusing to take the bait. Brenda, I said, the name tasting like ash. You're building a life with Brenda while you're still living this one. Then came the pivot. The master stroke. He sat down in a chair across the room, creating a physical distance between us, and let out a deep, put-upon sigh. "I didn't want you to find out this way," he began, as if he were the victim of bad timing. "Listen, things haven't been good for a long time. You know that. You haven't been happy. I haven't been happy. I've been so lonely, Anna." He made his affair sound like the sad, inevitable result of my failings. He painted himself as a man starved for affection and fun, a lateness that I, with my heaviness, had denied him. Brenda wasn't a choice he made. She was a refuge he was forced to seek. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I saw right then that the truth didn't matter to him. All that mattered was his story, the one where he was blameless. The fight was over before it began. He said he wanted a divorce. It was for the best. He promised to be fair, to make it painless for Lily. And then he delivered the line that would become the foundation of his lie for the next 7 years. He said it with this phony, magnanimous tone, as if he were protecting me. "I won't tell people the real reason. It would be too humiliating for you. We'll just say we grew apart." He wasn't protecting me. He was silencing me. He was framing any future attempt I might make to tell the truth as an act of bitter revenge. He walked out that night to stay with a friend, and the next day his story began to spread. Mark and Anna were splitting up. It was sad but amicable. But everyone knew it was because she had pushed him away. He was such a good man, and I, in my cold, quiet shock, let him do it. I didn't have the strength to fight. He hadn't just broken our marriage, he had stolen the story of it too. 7 years is a long time. It's long enough for a wound to scar over, even if it doesn't fully heal. It's long enough for your daughter to go from a little girl to a young woman. Lily was 21, a junior in college, and the one good, pure thing to come out of the wreckage. Our relationship was my anchor. She called on a Tuesday. I was in the kitchen making tea. "Hey, Mom," she said, her voice a little too bright. I knew that voice. It was the one she used when she had to deliver news she thought I wouldn't want to hear. "Hi, sweetie, is everything okay?" A pause. "Yeah, I am fine. It's just I talked to Dad this morning. My stomach tightened. It always did. He told me some news. He wanted to tell you himself, but, well, I told him I should do it." Another pause. "Mom, he and Brenda are engaged." The world didn't stop. The sun didn't fall. There was just a sudden, profound silence in my head. The hum of the refrigerator, the ticking clock, it all faded. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even betrayal. It was clarity, a cold, sharp, and totally liberating clarity. For 7 years, I had lived by his story to keep the peace. I had smiled through the condescending looks and ignored the whispers. I did it for Lily. But Lily was an adult now. She had just delivered the news herself, her voice laced with a protective concern for me. She wasn't a fragile child anymore. She was a woman who knew, on some level, what I had sacrificed. The engagement wasn't an insult. It was a key. It unlocked a door I had sealed shut 7 years ago. The debt he owed me the truth had just come due, with interest. "Mom, are you there?" Lily's voice was full of worry. I took a breath, and the resolve settled in, quiet and steady. "I am here, honey. Thank you for telling me. It is okay." And it was. For the first time in 7 years, it really was okay. Because the story wasn't over. He had just handed me the pen. This wasn't a revenge born from rage. It was built on 7 years of patience. For years, I had held on to a small digital time capsule, a single folder on an old hard drive, tucked in the back of my desk drawer. I hadn't looked at it since that day, but I never deleted it. It was my insurance policy, my truth bomb. The folder was labeled Receipts. Inside was everything. The entire unedited email chain between Mark and Brenda from the week I found out. Not just the tonight email, but all of them. The ones where they meticulously planned his exit from our marriage. The ones where they strategized how to spin the story. In one email, Mark had written, "Anna will never fight it. She'll be too worried about Lily. We just need to be smart. Frame it as us growing apart. She'll be so devastated she'll just go along with it. In a year, she'll just be the sad ex-wife." In another, Brenda had replied, "My family will love you. I'll tell them how she never appreciated you, how hard you tried. My mom is a sucker for a tragic hero." It was all there. A step-by-step guide to their deception. The cold, calculated plan to destroy my reputation while building their own little love story. And for 7 years, they had executed it flawlessly. My plan was simple. It had to be quiet, elegant, and final. I wouldn't post it online. I wouldn't blast it to our old friends. That would be messy and vindictive, and it would only prove Mark's story right. No, I was going to send it to just one person, Brenda S. Mother. I remembered her from a long ago company Christmas party, a prim woman who wore her pearls like armor and talked endlessly about good character. From what I'd heard, she adored Mark. She saw him as the charming, wronged man who had finally found happiness with her daughter. Brenda had played her mother like a fiddle. That evening, I carefully compiled the emails into a single, easy-to-read document. I titled it, "Correspondence between Mark and Brenda, October 2018. No angry commentary. The words were damning enough in their own. I printed the document. Then, on a simple, elegant card, I wrote a short note. "Dear Mrs. Albright, I believe in the truth. For 7 years, a story has been told about the end of my marriage, and I have stayed silent for my daughter's sake. With the news of their engagement, I feel it is only right that the foundation of their new family be built on honesty, not a lie." Enclosed is a copy of emails from the week my marriage ended. I am not sending this out of malice, but from a firm belief that the truth must eventually come out. I wish you and your family nothing but clarity. Sincerely, Anna. I placed everything into a plain manila envelope. No return address. It was clean. It was precise. It wasn't an attack. It was the quiet presentation of a receipt for a debt long overdue. The next morning, I mailed the envelope from a post office in the next town over. As it slid into the box, I didn't feel a thrill of revenge. I just felt a release. A weight I didn't even know I was still carrying simply lifted. I had been the keeper of his secret for 7 years. Now I was just returning it to its rightful owners. My week went on. I went to the library, had dinner with a friend called Lily. I didn't check my phone obsessively. I had planted a seed of truth in the most fertile soil I could find. I didn't need to watch it grow. The first tremor hit about 10 days later. A call from an old friend, Sarah, one of the few who tried to stay neutral. "Anna," she said, her voice a mix of shock and gossip. "Have you heard? Mark and Brenda S. engagement party was postponed." "Oh?" I said, my voice perfectly calm. "No one knows what is going on," she rushed on. "But the rumor is there was a huge blow-up with Brenda S. family. Her mom found something out. It is all very hush-hush, but apparently Mark is in the doghouse, and Brenda isn't speaking to her parents. I just listened, a small private smile on my lips. Well, I said, the picture of serenity. I hope they work it out. A few days later, Lily called, sounding confused. Mom, Dad is a mess. He's calling me saying Brenda's mom is trying to ruin their lives, that someone sent her a bunch of lies about him. She paused. He asked if it was you. I told him, of course not. You were right, I said calmly. I didn't send any lies. And I hadn't. I had only sent the truth. The chaos that came next wasn't my doing. It was the natural collapse of a house built on a rotten foundation. Their perfect love story, their narrative of the tragic hero, couldn't withstand the simple weight of their own words. Brenda's mother, the woman who valued character above all, had finally seen the man her daughter was marrying, and she had seen her daughter as his willing accomplice. The wedding, of course, never happened. A relationship born in the thrill of secrecy couldn't survive the harsh light of accountability. The us against the world fantasy tends to fall apart when the world finds out you were the ones who started the fire. I never heard from Mark about the envelope. I don't know if he knows for sure it was me. I don't care. His opinion of me is no longer a currency I deal in. The power he held over me was tied to a lie I quietly agreed to maintain. The moment I chose to present the truth, that power vanished. The real revenge wasn't watching them fall apart. It was my own liberation. It was the quiet satisfaction of knowing his story had finally crumbled under the weight of reality. He spent years writing a fiction where I was the villain. In one quiet afternoon, I simply published the footnotes, and the truth set me free. My story is my own now. I'm not the villain or the victim. I'm just the author. And this new chapter is about peace, strength, and the quiet dignity of taking back your own name. Have you ever had to fight to reclaim your own story? I'd be honored to hear about it in the comments. Thank you for listening.